Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. Frank here, founder of AddictionMindset recovery coaching programs. And in today's video, I want to talk about 7 different types of people who smoke weed, okay? And I can confidently say throughout my journey with marijuana, I probably qualified into each of these categories. So after I go through this, I want you guys to let me know what type of person are you? Where are you at with your weed smoking journey? And let me know if I forget any. All right. Type of person number 1. This is where it's a lifestyle for them, but it's a lifestyle that it just works. So this is the person that smokes weed. They're happy-go-lucky. They've been successful in multiple areas of their life, and they've been smoking for a long time. Like, weed is truly just a part of them, and they have not had any problems with that on a superficial level and on a deeper level. Now, this might apply to people like Snoop Dogg. This might apply to 2 Chainz, aka Titty Boy. There's numerous individuals who this could apply to. Successful people who smoke weed and they're good. Like, they're just good with it. Then you have your person who smokes weed who's productive. This is the person where I'd say it's not really so much a lifestyle. They enjoy using cannabis and they're productive with it. Whatever. They start cleaning their house. They're able to get schoolwork done. They're able to get, stuff done at their job. They just live a productive lifestyle, and cannabis is part of it. I've seen many of these accounts dedicated to fitness on TikTok. Good. This one's kind of funny. I kind of think I probably fell into this category, or at least I wanted to fall into this category when I used to smoke. There's the person who smokes weed who thinks they're productive, but they're really not productive. And I hate to break it to you, I think there's a lot of people that fall into this category and they don't realize it. This is the person that's smoking weed and they're like, oh yeah, I'm up to so much. And then you talk to them and it's like, yo, what have you been up to lately? And they're just like, oh, just chilling, smoking a lot of weed. I got this new weed. I got this new bong. I got this new pen. I got this. And when you're talking to them, there's nothing really too productive actually going on. So, okay. You got the person that is the social smoker. This is the person that doesn't smoke every day. They just smoke socially, and it's no problem for them. They're having fun. They enjoy smoking with their friends on weekends. It really doesn't interrupt any of their day-to-day activities, and that is definitely how my weed smoking journey started when I went from social smoker to fully addicted. We're going to talk about that. Then you got your person who's addicted. This is the person that's just flat out, they're dependent on weed, they're addicted. We're seeing a lot more of this with the use of carts and the high concentration THC. I hate to say it, but addiction is going to be on the rise. And I say that as someone who's very pro 420, and I'm going to make a compelling argument about that in a few minutes. Then you have your person who uses weed medicinally, and they just reap the benefits of it. And there's a lot of people out there. That's why I'm so pro 420. There's a lot of people who are getting tremendous benefit from using medical marijuana, and I think it's awesome. They're being able to stay away from big pharma. They're not facing some of the crazy side effects that other pharmaceutical drugs have, and it's really improved their quality of life. The positives have significantly outweighed the negatives. Then lastly, number 7, you have the person who thinks they're using weed medicinally, but it's like, again, it goes back to it's all they do. This person might be addicted. Maybe they started using it medicinally, but now they're constant. They're high 24/7. At this point, it's not a medical thing. They say it is, but it's like, no, you are high 24/7. I take Advil, I really don't. But if I were to use Advil, I wouldn't eat it like candy. I would take it when I have pain. I would, take a sleeping medication when I can't sleep. Although I understand a lot of people eat prescriptions like candy. I think you guys can think of this person. They're just constantly like, oh, it's plant medicine. But then again, I get it, but are you abusing it? Because you can abuse medicine. Let's be clear on that. There's tons of medications out there that are abused every single day. So for me personally, I think I have touched on my journey with smoking weed each of these experiences. I started smoking around the age of 23. I quit around the age of 28 or so, and I started off socially. Then it definitely kind of became a lifestyle, which I think was maybe a positive thing. I slowed down on the alcohol. I started smoking some more weed. Then I was like, oh, I'm using this medically. It's really helping me with the stress of college. It's helping me sleep at night because I had like wicked insomnia. And I was seeing lots of benefits. There was a point in my life where I was truly benefiting and having a lot of fun socially with the use of cannabis, marijuana. We're smoking bongs, blunts, all that stuff. Good time. Okay. Then I came along a point in my journey where things started to change. I started to develop a dependence on weed. I definitely had built up a tolerance on weed. And at this point, now I'm using it every day. I pretty much only used it at nighttime, maybe a little bit during the day on a weekend, if I obviously wasn't working or something like that. But now I was starting to become dependent upon it. So I couldn't sleep without it. My appetite was getting really screwed up without it. My mood was getting really screwed up without it. And there was warning signs. And that's one of the beautiful things I think there is about weed. I believe everyone goes through a point in life where, not everyone, but a lot of people, where weed is like fun and enjoyable. And then I think people face warning signs. And it's kind of weed's way of telling you, hey, you're coming up to your expiration date on, abusing me like this. You're coming up to your expiration date on constantly using me. I'm trying to warn you. And I noticed over time, I was getting more anxiety. I started to develop panic attacks by the end of my, weed smoking journey. And the screwed up thing was this. I thought the weed was helping me because I perceived it in such a positive light from prior use. I couldn't really break into the idea that it was now causing me problems. Like, that was a hard idea to wrap my head around. And naturally, when I would use it, I would feel better. Like anyone who uses any substance who's addicted to it, you use it temporarily, you feel better because it helps to fight off the withdrawals or the cravings and all that stuff. Which, yes, you can get physically addicted to weed. Don't at me on that one, okay? We could have another argument about that. Now, this is fascinating to me because at this point in my weed smoking journey, and yes, it did end with some black market products. I want to be clear. I don't know if it would have ended for me if I didn't start using black market carts. But at this point, I was starting to get sick. Like, I was losing weight. I was getting nauseous. I wasn't throwing up, but I was getting the joint pain. I really couldn't work out anymore without massive amounts of discomfort. I was developing the early stages of Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. And this is where this becomes fascinating. I think most people who smoke weed get to a point, and when it runs its course, they're done with it. They're like, yo, I'm done. It just doesn't work for me anymore. And I think most people don't have a problem quitting. They just quit. They're just done with it. Or they go back to really occasional social use. But for some people, like myself, when that addiction develops, you power through all those warning signs. You power through all those weird symptoms. And you ignore the warning signs that weed is giving you, that maybe it's run its course. And this is where you wind up with full-blown addiction. It's no different from like drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes. Yeah, sure. At first, alcohol socially is fun, but then there comes a point where drinking a lot just doesn't feel good. Some people power through that sensation and wind up developing alcoholism, and then they're dependent upon alcohol to function. They ignored all those warning signs. I think with weed, it's no different. Yeah, not as serious as side effects. Unless you do get, really bad cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, then it is extremely serious. And I just think you guys, if you smoke and you watch my channel, I want you to kind of figure out, where are you in your weed smoking journey? And if you're coming to a point where this journey is coming to an end, I want you to focus on accepting that something that was once good, something that once worked for you, might not be working for you anymore. And that idea, that acceptance, is further complicated by, I believe, people who can smoke, right? Like, it's hard to look at successful people who smoke because you're like, oh, I want that. I want to be able to do that. But just because it works for one person doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. And just because it used to work for you doesn't mean that it's working for you now. And that's okay. That's a beautiful thing. That's weed's way of telling you, hey, we've run our course, we had a good time, but you got to pump the brakes or you got to stop. That's weed's way of telling you that. You know, I tell people in our programs, look, like you could have two people going to school to be chiropractors or financial advisors or dentists. That doesn't mean that it's going to work out for both of them. It might work really well for one of them and really poorly for the other one. And that other person might have to change their career path. That's just, it's normal. It's just a normal part of life. And when you're quitting weed, I think accepting that becomes particularly challenging, especially when we see so much positive media attention around weed and cannabis use. I think that's awesome. But I do think it's a huge disservice to the 420 community to not talk about the potential for addiction, to not talk about the potential for dependence. I think the more we talk about it and the more we acknowledge it and the more we help people who are part of the 420 community who struggle with it, I think the better off the 420 movement's going to be all around. I think that creates for a much less complicated situation. To deny and live in denial about the potential negatives on weed, I think is a really dangerous thing, not only for you personally, but for the movement as a whole. And I'm going to challenge you this in this video today. If you think you fall into that category of addiction or someone who's using it medically, but now maybe the negatives are outweighing the positives, I want you to consider quitting weed, not only for yourself, but for all those other people who might reap the benefits of it, because we don't want to tarnish the positive things surrounding weed. But if we keep ignoring the addictions, if people keep getting this cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome and we don't talk about it, we're going to ruin the benefits of weed, because it's eventually going to get demonized again. And then all those people who might reap the benefits of it, who truly might need it, might not get to experience that. And that includes people who experience it positively in a recreational sense too. So I challenge you, if you're struggling with addiction to it, you know, look, watch some of my videos on it and consider quitting, not only for yourself, but for the 420 community as a whole. You know, they say if you truly love something, you have to be able to let it go. And maybe that's the case with you in marijuana because you're running into addiction. I went through this experience firsthand, so I get it. I know it can be challenging. If you need extra help, sign up for our coaching programs. We are launching a course soon. I'm not saying that in some crappy coaching way. Just it's a great course. And keep following. I got a lot more great content for you guys about this to help you wrap your heads around it. Me too. This helps me too. So I'll see you guys